This is Glow in the Dark Radio. The science fiction podcast with original independent science fiction written and performed by Mike Luoma, with music by Kevin MacLeod. The Vatican Assassin Trilogy and The Adventures of Alibi Jones by Mike Luoma are available in ebook, trade paperback, and audiobook wherever you find your books online. Get links and details at glowinthedarkradio.com. This is the Science Fiction Podcast, Glow in the Dark Radio. I'm your host, your writer and reader, Mike Luoma, and I've got Chapter 3 of Alibi Jones and the Hornet's Nest coming up on this episode. We checked in on a few people in our last couple of chapters, but ended up with Alibi Jones discovering that his exploits on Kismet seem to have become public knowledge. You don't need to have read that or heard about those, but they are the subject of the book, The Sunrise of Her, or at least the second part of it. But yeah, he helped blow up a city, which was like the city of that planet, Kismet. So he kind of got away with it for a little bit. Nobody knew it was him. But now the news is getting out, and Alibi has no idea how. It's become public knowledge. And that's where we're going to pick things up as we get into this episode and get into Chapter 3 of Alibi Jones and the Hornet's Nest, coming up on Glow in the Dark Radio. A little bit of podcast news before the book news. I'm taking a week off. Next week, it's my birthday. I'm going to be turning 60 on Tuesday, the 25th. Man, I do not feel that age. I resist. I am at the vanguard of Generation X, and we're just starting to turn 60. How about that? Yikes. And it's also Thanksgiving on Thursday, so I'm taking next week off. And I'm not going to be doing the podcast or any of my other stuff. Just existing for myself and my family next week. And then I'll be back with Chapter 4 of The Hornet's Nest. A big thank you as we approach Thanksgiving to my patrons who help keep everything going. All the bills come this time of year too, so man, do I appreciate patrons this time of year. You guys help support this podcast, you help support my websites, and you help keep everything going, so thank you very much. If you'd like to become a patron and help support the podcast, I would love to have you on board. As we, get towards the holidays, like I say, a lot of expenses, just because of when I started my podcast and things, a lot of stuff hits right about now. So I can use your help, and you can become a patron over at Patreon, Patreon, patreon.com/glowinthedarkradio. I have 3 different tiers, so you can do it for $2 a month, just kind of help sustain the show. You can do it for $5 a month, which makes you a supporter, a fan of the show who helps keep it going. And for $10 a month, you're one of my all-stars. You help really keep the show happening and help pay for the websites and everything else. So $2, $5, or $10 a month if you want to become a patron. Again, the place to go, patreon.com/glowinthedarkradio. And there's a link in the show notes. Now, another way you can support me is by picking up my work. I've got a calendar out there for the new year. The Exploring New England 2026 calendar is available. Again, a link in the show notes for that. You probably want to act on that soon and act on picking up any indie books for the holidays. Not just mine, but any independent author's books make for great holiday gifts. And if you want to get those, I've got a link to my books and everything else in the show notes. And that is all for podcast and book news. We're going to get into Chapter 3 of Alibi Jones and the Hornet's Nest, next on Glow in the Dark Radio.
The Flesh Pulp Podcast. 3 to 10 minutes of fiction brought to you thrice weekly. 200 miles below the surface of the earth, at the terminus of a series of long-sealed caverns and interconnected shrines, under the shadow of the eternally bleeding eye, there is a crippled wreck of a man writing tales, stories of a dimension engulfed in madness. He is writing them of you. Sing them all at fleshpulp.com or search for it on iTunes.
Now here's Chapter 3 of Alibi Jones and the Hornet's Nest on Glow in the Dark Radio. Alibi stared wide-eyed at the bartender as the man explained how Alibi's world had just exploded. "The other nets have been piling on. Lots of reports about you blowing Kismet up now," the man said. "Surprised there aren't news crews swarming around you." "Turned my wand's locator off," Alibi said. "Didn't want to be found. For different reasons." "Different reasons?" the bartender asked. "Stuff I gotta put behind me," Alibi said. "Stuff that's not quite as pressing as this." He looked around the room again. Some people were still staring. He could feel it. With a quick decision, Alibi turned and made for the door. "Where you going?" the bartender called after him. "Time for me to get lost," Alibi said. He bounced out of the bar. "Hey! Alibi Jones!" the bartender shouted after him. Alibi ignored the man. "Probably already sending in news tips with my location, hoping for scoop money." Alibi jogged down the corridor towards the main concourse of Ceres Central. As he worked his way back towards his Aunt Anita's apartments, he pulled his wand from his jumpsuit pocket. He debated turning it on. "If I do, they'll be able to track me down, find me. But if I don't, can't figure out what the hell is going on. Well, know enough about what's happening for now, really." Alibi decided to keep out of the public eye, to get behind closed doors before alerting the news media to his whereabouts. He put the wand away in its usual pocket, leaving it in dormant mode. Alibi's Aunt Anita had been the prime representative of the Solar Alliance for its first 20-odd years. After that, she was governor of Ceres Central. She'd recently retired from that job. Thanks to her high profile, her apartments on Ceres Central were built with extra security precautions in place, as well as several extra exits and entrances unknown to the general public and media outlets. Alibi made his way to one of those lesser-known entrances and ducked into the residence. He closed the door behind him and listened. Quiet. Seems like a clean getaway. He made his way down a special access corridor to a door that opened onto a regular hallway inside of the apartment and ducked through. Shutting the door behind him, Alibi paused, bracing himself to face his Aunt Anita. After a moment's stealing, he headed down the hall. "The shit has hit the fan, Alibi," his aunt said as he walked into her kitchen. "Shit hitting a fan, that's a lovely image," Alibi said. "Good to see you too, Aunt Anita." "It's an old expression," she said. "Means it's time to pay the piper." Alibi stared at his aunt, trying to figure out what she meant. "Who's the piper?" "Kismet," she said. "The story broke this afternoon, and your name is all over it." "Kiz? Great. I just heard something about it from a bartender," he said. "Had my wand turned off." "Good thing," she said. "Or they'd have used your locator, been all over you asking questions." "But I made..." He started, paused. He thought about what to say for a moment, considered his words before he continued. This isn't my fault. Gotta try not to snap at her, though. I made reports, he said. To the safe brass. They announced it was an accident. His temper got the better of him. You made me do it, he said, raising his voice. Told me which ones to report to, too. He was getting angry with her, which wasn't fair. It isn't her fault either. She glared back. His Aunt Anita raised him. Although he called her his aunt, she was more like his mother. She stared down Alibi with the sort of withering glance only a mother can give her child, scolding him with her silent glare. Sorry, he said, chagrined. Don't be, she said, relaxing. I understand why you're angry, and you won't be sorry you filed those reports either, although one of them has to be the source of the leak, obviously. Obviously? Alibi asked. The Kismet incident was originally reported as a freak accident with no one singled out. Though there were rumors of sabotage, of course, she said. For them to change the story, now, to focus on you, means a leak. Someone talked. It's not likely that Dacour or Katie went to the media. You didn't. Lavalure is still missing. By process of elimination, she let the implications hang. I see, Alibi said. Someone in the upper command is kissing the ass of the new prime rep, she pointed out. Oh. It makes sense. Except, well then, why shouldn't I be sorry I filed the reports? Alibi whined. You're telling me I gave them this info and they let it out. Because you've covered your ass, Alibi, she explained. You told the people you were supposed to tell. The top safe brass had your report for more than 2 months and never saw fit to do anything. They can't do anything to you now without making themselves look culpable. Well, in theory. In theory? Anita didn't answer. Instead, she looked at him with a strange mix of concern, anxiety, and consternation. Aunt Anita? Alibi prodded when she didn't respond. She looked him in the eyes. Alibi, she said, your life is about to change. Radically. Now that this news is out. I was hoping we could keep it under wraps longer, but there is a price to be paid, Alibi. You can't blow up a city, a world, and walk away unscathed. We did, Alibi said. Well, except for Brady Thomas. Poor man brought you there and you got him killed, she said. She scolded his offhanded reference. Think he did that for himself. Alibi? Alibi frowned. He'd liked Thomas. The old con man had been a big help on Kismet. Lavalure said he'd bought Thomas out at the end. Never believed that. At least, I don't think so. Anita waited, watching him. I've been doing what I was supposed to. Laying low, like you told me, he said. It's been months. Fought a whole time war no one even remembers. Alibi shook his head. Seemed even his own memories of the time war were fading. What are you going to do? He asked her. What am I supposed to do? Me? She laughed. I'm not going to do anything. It's not me you have to worry about. I'd hoped this would blow over, but word was the new prime rep wanted your head. Now we see that's true. Who? Alibi asked. Nico Constantine Jr.? But why? He's not a junior, she said. I know they call him that, but that little shit doesn't really deserve to use his great-uncle's name. How do you really feel, Aunt Anita? Alibi cracked. I worked side by side with Nico Constantine getting the Solar Alliance started, she said. The real Nico Constantine, not this cheap imitation. The real one's daughter doesn't like Junior either, Alibi said. Electra has a right to be pissed, Anita said. This Nico is the grandson of one of her father's mistresses. Oh, yeah, the bastard thing, Alibi said. Saw that on the news. I still can't believe the Human Destiny Party won enough seats to build a majority coalition, Anita said, and elect him the prime rep. She sniffed. He sullies the office. She darkened. But, so, why is he after me? Alibi asked her, confused. He's one of those people who gains power by tearing other people down. making other people his scapegoats, she said. He rallies followers to his cause by creating villains. She shook her head. This is, in a way, my fault, she said, but only because I've made myself unassailable to the man and his political machine. Your fault because he can't attack you personally? Alibi said. I don't buy that. Perhaps fault is the wrong word, she said. But that is the cause of it. The jerk can't make me out to be a villain, so he's going after you. You're like my son. They know I love you and think this neutralizes me through you, by making you the bad one. I'm a villain? Alibi asked. Little old me? He tried to joke. Yes, little old you are a mass murderer and a world destroyer, according to the new Nico, Anita said. He included a reference to you and Kismet in a speech he just made. Amazing how quickly this went down. It all blew up in the last hour, but clearly they've had it in the works, obviously planned. Made it clear where the leak came from anyway. He has a bully pulpit now that the election is over and he's the prime rep. You should hear him. Here, she said, turning on the feed. Now on Newsnight, highlights of Prime Rep Nico Constantine's speech this afternoon at the Solar Alliance Assembly, after the vote to strike down the cyborg modification laws. This rollback of outdated laws that stymie human progress is just the beginning of the changes we in the Human Destiny Party mean to bring. We need to advance the cause of all humanity. I may have a famous name, Nico Constantine said. That doesn't mean I should get any special privileges. Matter of fact, I never did, coming from what my dear cousin likes to call the bastard branch of the family. Constantine flashed his now trademark grin. Some might call it a sneer. We have had far too much family favoritism and nepotism in the Solar Alliance, he continued. When I'm challenged by the old guard on my ideas of expanding the Solar Alliance by loosening some of the archaic restrictive laws of past generations, I cannot help but think that for some, the rules inside of the Solar Alliance are different already. Look at the case of one Alibi Jones, Constantine said. He grinned again. Practically the son of Prime Rep Anita Capituna, and the illustrious scion of everyone's favorite assassin, Bernard Campion. Jones's behavior has been excused despite the fact he was responsible for the deaths of hundreds of innocent tourists of different races and widespread property destruction on Kismet last year. She turned off the feed and looked at Alibi. Wow, Alibi said. That's not good. Nope. What can I do? Well, she began, you won't be able to stay in the mediation corps. No? Kind of impossible given Kismet, she said. Once you're known for blowing up planets, you lose the ability to be trusted as a negotiator, she said with a wry grin and a touch of sarcasm. But there are other branches of the interplanetary force. Although my political power appears to be dwindling, I still have some friends in high places, and I have been speaking with some of them about your future just in case. I've made contingency plans for you. Had to. You don't know the sort of shark-infested waters you're swimming in, Alibi. Also had a feeling this new bunch would be trouble. It is politicians we're talking about, Alibi said. More like swimming with the key click in their crap, he said, referring to the aquatic aliens known for excreting wastes in public. Alibi, his aunt said, disapproval in her tone stopping him from going further. He smiled a sort of half-smile. Thank you for looking out for me, Aunt Anita, he said. I do appreciate it. Don't always show it, I know. Not a fan of people helping me, but I think I might need it this time. What am I in for? A brand new assignment, she said. One far away from our new bastard prime rep, if things work out as I hope. That sounds cool, Alibi said, cheering up a little. Don't be so sure, she cautioned. Then she softened and smiled a small, concerned grin. Why don't you go lie down for a while? Grab a couple hours of sleep. I need to make some calls. Should have some news for you by the time you wake up. Hector Ruiz sat alone on the bridge of the Libre Campista. He'd sent the rest of the crew off to their cabins when they'd finally gotten out of the range of the danger. He couldn't get the sight of the ghostly astronaut out of his head. Could still hear it pleading with him. "Don't let me die again!" Hector pulled the Libre Campista up alongside the Libre Campista de Dos. He'd tracked her down in a distant orbit around Depot. "Hector, you there?" Bob Bond's voice called out from the comm. "I'm here, Bobby," Hector said. "You all right?" Bond asked. "You sound weird." When Hector didn't answer, Bond continued. "You're back here pretty quick. Everything work out okay at that wreck?" "Not really, my friend," Hector said. "You were right, Bobby. There's something not right about that thing. Began to feel that even before we saw the ghost." "Ghost?" "Got a hell of a story to tell you, Bobby," Hector said. "A hell of a story. But first we've got to explain to Bill Gentry why we didn't meet his ships at the rendezvous when we were supposed to, eh?" "Yeah," Bond said. "Been thinking about that. He never likes it when folks are late on payments." "Dues, Bobby. How many times? Call them dues, man. Gentry hates them being called payments. You know that." "Right," Bond said. "Just a little shook." "Well, don't make that mistake with Gentry when you call." "Me? I gotta make the call?" "Your turn, Bobby. Your turn to tell the Godfather why we didn't meet his people out near that nebula like we were supposed to. Besides, I've got my own chore." "What are you going to do?" Bond asked. "Believe it or not, I'm going to call in that thing we saw out there, Bobby," Hector said. "Actually file a report with the Solar Alliance on Depot. See what they say when I tell them we saw a ghost out in deep space." Alibi slept and surfed the void. Empty. Vacuum. Absence. Wait. Not entirely empty. One mass. A crackling coalescence of energies. Existence without substance. Lacking sustenance as well. Craving all. The hunger. Self-created. Formless entity. A hateful, roiling stew of bioelectrical energies. The hunger approached Alibi. A lone mass of want in the midst of limitless nothing. In his transitive state, half asleep, Alibi observed the energies. He felt their oddly undefined hunger reach for his mind. The feeling, the grasping, reminded him of Azimuth's grasping for his mind and psyche long ago. The ancient enemy scientist tried to probe Alibi, take over his mind, but Alibi was able to block him and kept him out. This time, instead of waiting for the attack, Alibi concentrated on going to the source, past its grasping, into the mass, into the hunger itself. As he plunged into its energies, Alibi filled with knowledge. The hunger was what remained of the innumerable mixed-up matrices of the elite of the people, called by some the ancient enemy, flung forward in time but cheated of form by the failure of Chief Scientist Azimuth's machinations. Azimuth failed, and this mass of needful energy was the result. Alibi continued to learn their plight as he moved through the hunger. He couldn't turn their shared mental anguish off. The energies screamed to be heard, to communicate, to complain of their plight. The new bodies they were to have occupied were killed as they came forward into this new time, their far future. With their receptacles dead, their destinations denied, all the energies attempted to possess the only form left, Azimuth's, but that one far too limited body burned up. After that, only their energies remained, drawn into each other, becoming the insatiable hunger. Though the hunger occasionally came across morsels, promising bits of biomatter that offered possible hosting, potential bodies, all so far had proven both inadequate and quickly consumed. Alibi sensed a taste of lava lure in his men. So that's what happened to them. The hunger continued to search and devour. "And what is this now?" Alibi heard the loud thought. "Uh-oh, I've been noticed. It sensed me." Alibi pulled back from the mass and pictured an image in his mind. Double doors! The metaphorical doors in his mind closed, blocking out the hunger. It worked! Bam! Alibi's head resounded like a bell, the double doors ringing in his mind as if struck by a giant mallet. The hunger wanted in. Alibi pictured the doors being thicker, reinforced. Bam! The doors shook with another strike, but only trembled. Alibi waited for another blow. Nothing. They didn't ring out again. Alibi shook himself out of the dream trance. He sat up in bed. Was that real? It felt real enough. Could Azimet really have failed? Alibi rolled over and tried to get back to sleep. He tossed and turned for a while longer, but it wasn't happening. Too restless and churned up by the day's events in the dream, Alibi got up, giving up on the nap. He decided to take another walk to relax and try to think. The astral encounter with the hunger of the ancient enemy had shaken him more than he wanted to admit. He really wasn't thinking. The media were waiting for him as he walked out of his aunt's apartments. Do you have a statement? What? A statement for the media about Kismet. Why did you blow up the planet, Alibi Jones? Do you deny you're a mass murderer? Alibi looked uncomfortable. I'm not sure what to say. Does that mean you admit to the charges? Charges? What charges? Alibi Jones. No comment. That was Chapter 3 of Alibi Jones and the Hornet's Nest on Glow-in-the-Dark Radio, part of the Adventures of Alibi Jones Chronological Omnibus. The audiobook continues on the podcast. No comment. Charges? Alibi Jones could be in some trouble for what happened on Kismet. Hector Ruiz is pretty sure he's seeing ghosts. And thanks to his mental experiences, Alibi also just may have discovered the existence of the hunger of the ancient enemy. And also discovered the non-existence of La Valor, discovered that the ancient enemy eat them all up. The hunger. From the nightmare of the hunger to the clamoring jaws of the media. Out of the frying pan into the fire, in a way. We'll find out what's next for Alibi Jones in Chapter 4 of Alibi Jones and the Hornet's Nest, coming up on our next episode of Glow-in-the-Dark Radio. And again, in podcast news, 1 week off. There will be a slight delay before next week's episode. Well, there won't be an episode next week. There's going to be a break, and then I'll be back in 2 weeks with the next episode. With that in mind, I'm bugging you one more time about picking up one of my books or the new calendar as a gift for this holiday season. There's my new Exploring New England 2026 calendar with beautiful spots around New England. And there's also, of course, any of my books, nonfiction or fiction, which are available through Lulu or anywhere, actually. But I do have the link to lulu.com in the show notes because that's my printer, my print-on-demand supplier and distributor. So that's where, if you go there, I make the most on each book. Again, that's the link in the show notes to lulu.com for my books or for the new calendar for your holiday gift-giving ideas. And that is all for this week. Again, taking a week off. I'll be back in 2 weeks. I'm your host, your writer and reader, Mike Luoma. Thank you again for listening to Glow-in-the-Dark Radio. Glow-in-the-Dark Radio. This podcast presentation is copyright 2025 by Michael F. Luoma and is protected under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License, CC by NCND 4.0. Music by Kevin MacLeod. You can find his work at incompetech.com. glowinthedarkradio.com. Mike's books are available in ebook, paperback, and audiobook, wherever you find books online. Get links and more details at glowinthedarkradio.com and mikeluoma.com. This has been a presentation of Glow in the Dark Radio.